Welcome to Back Alley Bonsai. Today is a toasty day here in Los Angeles. It is 85 degrees. That is for those of you keeping count, that is a 25-degree jump since last week. It's going to be the beginning of a bit of a heat wave here, so it's going to be pretty warm. A lot of time watering my trees, making sure they got plenty of water and don't dry out on me and die. I've got a couple that I'm a little worried about. Today, what I'm going to be working on is this rosemary bush. I got this at the beginning of quarantine when my girlfriend came to me and said, "Hey, would a rosemary, excuse me, would a rosemary make a good bonsai?" And I said, "Oh, yes, it would. It'd make a delightful little bonsai." So, I haven't really done much to it. I put it in this pot. It's been hanging out in here for the last year or so. We've done a little bit of clipping, a little pruning on it here and there. And my turntable has died on me here. I need to get a better turntable. And I think it's time, now that spring is upon us, to do some actual work on this thing to make it look a little bit more like a tree. I like these a lot. I'll tell you the things that I like about it. They're very rugged looking. They get lots and lots of really rugged bark, and I'll show you some close-ups of that. They're very twisty, turny things. They're used to growing again in dry, scrubby places. They remind me a lot of California oaks, which I have a real soft spot for. And they start looking like California oaks real quickly and with very little work. Unlike California oaks, when you try to make them look like California oaks, it takes a long time to get them to look like California oaks. So I will bring you in for a close-up, and we'll take a look at some design choices that need to be made for this. So one of the first things that I really like about this tree is actually this branch coming off right here. It gives it kind of a twin trunk style. These are very common again in California oaks. I think it's very characterful. And what I want to do with it is actually accentuate it and pull it apart and create a little bit more space in between these two parts of the plant, because right now they're kind of stuck together. And I think that by pulling this bit down and away, I can create a little bit more visual difference between the two of them, and then I can get this section to start growing upwards afterwards. There are a few other odds and ends inside here, just kind of simple bonsai decisions to be made, and I will try and show you a few of them as I make them. So for example, I've got this branch right here, which I've got a good angle to show you it. It's right there, and it crosses underneath the branch above it, and that's not really a desirable characteristic. I can pull it out, but I'm not sure it's actually necessary. The tree is already kind of growing this way. So that's actually already pretty good. There's a lot of places where there's multiple branches growing out of the same spot, which is not really a desirable characteristic. And I want to try and get this it's about the right size for what I want. It's about as tall as I want it to be. And I want it to kind of generate some pads from there. That'll be kind of the next step, is just separating out some of these branches and creating some individual pads for it. A couple things that I actually do really like. Normally this little twisty branch, that separate trunk, I guess, that comes up from the bottom and crosses over and then comes across the tree like that, oftentimes this would be regarded as a fault in a bonsai. I think this is actually really cool looking. Again, I think it's really characterful, and I think it's kind of reminiscent of the sort of twisty, scrubby oaks that we have here in Southern California. So I think I may actually keep it and maybe even highlight it again, just much like this one, where I pull this one down. I'll also maybe pull this one down a bit to make it look a little bit more obvious. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is get some wire. And this is pretty heavy gauge, but a lot of these branches are really thick. This is probably maybe half or a third of the thickness of the branch in question. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and unspool the wire. I got an angle on this so you can see my wire cutters, which I've hidden away from myself like a smart guy. And I'll wire it to, I think, probably this other branch over here. So So we'll go with about yay. I'm just kind of eyeballing this. I'm not doing anything too fancy here. First thing we need to do is just find an anchor point for it. So we'll anchor it at the bottom here on this branch. And I wish I could find an angle that you guys could see better, but there really isn't much. I've got to get my hands in here. And then I will take this and wire it up and around. In fact, actually, I may just use it on this other branch back here. There we go. That'll work. Okay. So whoop. And I have broken something. That's always a bit of a problem when you start putting pressure on these things. That's kind of why you anchor it to itself as well, so that you don't wind up creating that kind of pressure that causes the branches to break. Wiring is practice. You will break something, and if you don't know where the breaking is going to happen, you will never know what your limits are on these branches. Okay, so there's going to be some pretty ugly looking wires on these, but that's okay. Again, as always, I am not entering any of my bonsai trees into a beauty pageant. I'm not going to collect my $10. This is a garden shrub that I'm having fun with. Okay. So there's the first one. And I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with it, I think. Take that around the main trunk. Yeah, I may wire that separately, I think. Go back to my original plan. I'll pull that up. Wire that to this branch right here. I know you guys can't see very well, but it is what it is. There we go. Like so. What I want to do, see if I can, I may need to get another piece of wire in there. So there's my starting wire job for these two branches, which gives me the ability to pull some of this downward a bit. And as you can see, I pulled this one way down. Get a better angle on that. There we go. So we can kind of see how that's already opened up this space in between these two branches. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a slightly smaller bit of wire. And let's see. I'm going to try and wire up this branch right here, which is the one that's crossing. And what I need to do is figure out what to anchor it to, because it's kind of by itself. So I may just wind up anchoring it to the other bigger branch I just wired. Actually, what I can probably do and I'm going to, this is all in the back. Actually, good film work, Michael. So what I've done is I brought the wire up and over, and now I'm going to wire it to the base of this branch right here. And that will give me just enough to pull that branch upwards. There we go. Into a bit of an angle. Cool. That looks pretty good. And the next thing will be to take all of this and continue wrapping at roughly 45 degrees around this branch right here. I can assure you this is a lot easier on a branch that is already straight. Oh, there we go. There's unfortunately a little bit of breakage. Hopefully that will not have too much of an impact. I think at least half the branch is still there. Cool. So there's that. And we'll clean this up a bit. It was a pretty ugly wire job, but you know, not everything is a beauty contest. Okay, so that gets us some ideas for how we can start styling this particular tree. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through those are the big branches that I'm mostly concerned about for now. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to start picking out some weaker growth and some stuff that's growing in weird positions or at weird angles that I don't necessarily need. I'm going to start off looking for stuff that's growing straight up and down, like this branch right here, which is essentially growing right out of the top. Don't need that. Also looking for things that are growing out of the bottoms of stuff, like that one. That actually might be kind of interesting. I'd like to pull some of these down a bit. I think they're all growing very vertically. Get some stubs which I can get rid of. Another stub. So here's a good example of a branch that I don't really need style-wise, and it's this one right here. Let's see how well you can see this. So yeah, you can see, actually they've got a little branch in the way that I don't really want. Let's get rid of you. There we go. All right, so it's this branch that is right here, and you can see that that branch is growing up, 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 up. But the thing about this branch is that it grows basically in a bit of a crotch point here. So I have a couple of choices I can do with it. I can take the bigger branch off the top altogether and let this one grow out. Or I can take this one off and let the rest of it grow as it is. I think I'll take it off. So here's an example of something that's very bunchy. We got a lot of stuff going on here. Get rid of this little weak branch there. And we can see we have a breakout here, we have another branching here, and this one, it's all very rapid. And the center is very strong, and it doesn't have a clear branching pattern. So what I'm going to do with it is I'm just going to take the middle. It is the strongest part. So I'm going to take that out, and that will encourage more growth out of both these two branches. Similarly, with these two over here, we've got 3 of them splitting in here. I'm actually going to take the stronger of the 3 off, let the others grow in. And that's pretty common for growing towards the top of your tree. You don't necessarily want there to be a bunch of really strong, really aggressive growth. You kind of want to encourage the weaker growth, which will oftentimes have more opportunities by taking off the stronger growth. You can see on this branch right here, this branch below it divides. Got a branch here, got a branch here. And that's okay. And then we have a very strong branch growing here, a slightly weaker branch growing here, and a nice weak one here as well. So I'm actually going to, this is a little weak, little niblet right there. So I'm just going to take this off slightly above that, get rid of that strong branch, and give the weaker ones an opportunity to basically replace them. Always trying to keep in mind that this is also a rosemary, so it's got some utility to it just by having stuff growing. You know, still want our delicious rosemary. And I'm just going to keep kind of going around the tree like that, looking for those places where we have, you know, multiple growths or one particularly strong branch and one weaker branch, and give the weaker branch the opportunity to kind of catch up. I should take that off altogether. Let me just turn that into a bit of a gin. Deadwood. Yeah, this one's got basically 4 different shoots coming out of the same spot. Don't need 4. Gonna cut it back to 2. There we go, that looks nice. And this big strong one, I'm going to cut back to here. Cut that back as well. That back as well. So let's take a look at this branch right here. It starts off down at the bottom, cuts up into 1, splits into 2, very quickly divides again and again. So there's actually 3 branches right here, and I definitely don't need 3. So I'm going to take off this middle one just for the sake of cleaning that up. I still have a very rapid division, and so I don't really need that one. So that looks cleaner as well. And then just for shaping, take that off. And then I'm just going around looking for places where there's 3 branches basically coming out of the same spot, where things are branching out too quickly for my taste. A lot of these are, some of these are health decisions for the tree. A lot of them are just aesthetic decisions, just ones that I like. this is getting real long. And there are, on this real long branch, this one right here, this really long one, there are 2 other branches growing right below it. So I'm actually just going to take it off altogether and let these 2 branches sort of take over the job. In fact, actually, there's a nice one growing right below it, so I may actually just take one of these off altogether. There we go. Now I have 2 branches. It's weird. Alright, now let's work our way back down to this bunch of branches. So, I'm not entirely sure that this grouping is even necessary for the tree. Maybe if it was cut back and thinned a bit. So, start off by taking out the middlemost one. No, I'm going to take off the entire back section. That looks pretty good. Alright, so all I'm going to do with this is just cut this back into kind of a broom style. This branch, unfortunately, as great as it is just too long. Maybe if I could bend it back up again, but I think that ultimately this one is probably better, so I'm going to cut it way back. Maybe it'll do something interesting in the future. Maybe not. And again, all I'm going to do is just cut these off. Edge clipper style. Same thing with these. Edge clipper style. Now I gotta figure out kind of what's the front on this thing. I think it's either going to be that right there, or all the way around the other way. That right there, and time will tell on what is actually the front or the back on this tree, I think. Give you guys a nice wide angle shot on it. A little rough to see with the backlighting. Let me see if I can move this over. Well, there you go, guys. That is my rosemary prune up. I'm going to make it look a little bit more like I said, a rough and ready California scrubland kind of tree. haven't really decided which is the front, whether it's going to be that side or that side. I actually think I like that side a little bit better. But either way, I think it looks pretty good. It's going to grow up into something, I think, pretty handsome when all is said and done. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button in the bottom right corner. Hit the bell if you want to be notified about when I do my next videos. Make sure you like this video and let your friends know. Other than that, have yourselves a wonderful day.